So I call to order the September 15, 2020 Planning Commission meeting in the city of Sedro-Woolley at 6:37. So could everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Everybody ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, moving on. Roll call. We have everyone present. Commissioner Huggins, Commissioner Freiberger, Commissioner Patizzi, Commissioner Maddox, Commissioner Penno. Absent are Eric Johnson and Joe Frenette. So as I'm moving down through the consent agenda, has everybody had the opportunity to look at the meeting minutes? And I need a motion, please, to either accept or amend.
Joe?
Yes.
So I don't know if I need to make a motion, but I did have a couple of things that I noticed.
Okay.
All right. Let me just pull that up here on my...
I wasn't at the meeting, so have at it.
So, number one, Eric Johnson was there, but he is not listed under the roll call as present.
Okay.
And then in unfinished business, let's see here. Yes, so not that first paragraph describing the rezone request, but underneath that, that second paragraph, it says that 3-acre parcel, and it's from residential 5, but this is talking about the Quam rezone request, and that is the Ruby rezone. Right. Yeah, so.
John, you got all this?
I'm now looking at the minutes, but did we just say R5 when we should have said R7?
Yeah, it just, and it said 3-acre instead of 2.5 acres. So I think that was what I noticed.
I'll check into that.
Okay.
So are we gonna table that until the next meeting, or can we make a motion to approve with the following amendments just recommended by Danielle? Okay, so I need a motion.
So moved.
Go ahead. Silas?
I'll so moved to accept the minutes with the additional corrections.
Okay, motion was made by Commissioner Maddox. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, we got 2 seconds. That's fine. So the motion to approve with the amendments referenced by Commissioner Freiberg will go into effect. So moving forward into the next section of the agenda, public hearing on a rezone of the number 2020012 Ruby, request to change the zoning designation of roughly 3 acres of land from mixed commercial to residential 5. John, do we want to read into the minutes? I think we just got one more written email that you received. Is that correct?
Well, as a point of order, you skipped the general public comments section of tonight's meeting.
Okay, sorry about that. There is no general comment period during the virtual meeting. Comments may be submitted by email. I'm still getting the hang of this too, by the way, just to bear with me. Please send comments by mail, planning department. So is this where you want to read that in? All I saw was that one last email that was on the attachment. I think it was dated 9/11.
Yeah, so it's just a point of order that we did not receive, just so we could get on record that we did not receive any general public comments for today's meeting. and there was one comment for the Ruby rezone, which we can, which was made available in a timely fashion. So I don't think it's necessary for us to read it into the record.
Okay.
It's available as part of the staff memo that went out.
Okay.
So I don't think we'll get into that, but that answers your question. If you want to open the public hearing section of this meeting.
I would like to do that. And thank you for helping me out, and feel free to jump in at any time. So we're going to open up the public hearing for number 1, rezone request number 2020-012, Ruby, request to change the zoning designation of roughly 3 acres of land from mixed commercial to residential 5. Bill, do we have anybody online or in via phone or that would like to make comments?
The way we usually do it is we have staff give a presentation and then open the public hearing, and we just have a brief kind of summary of what's been going on, and then open it up for public comments, and those listening at home will have the opportunity to speak. I saw the applicant is on, so is online, so if he would like to speak, we generally give the applicant the chance to speak before the rest of the public comments.
Okay. Would you like to start off though to get it started, and then we'll let Mr. Ruby add what he would like to put on record?
All right. So Commissioner Fatizzi already explained what the request is. I think everybody online has either are here because they've received some sort of public notice, so they're aware of what the general the general conditions of the property and what's going on. We'll be taking public comments here in a moment, and nothing's really changed since the last meeting that we had on this issue. Staff didn't find any additional information in our records that are relevant to it. There is public comments that have been submitted, and a lot of them have to do with water in the area, stormwater issues, and flooding. And that relates largely to the entire, or to most of the golf course, not specifically to the 3 acres of area that are proposed to be rezoned. So without finding any additional information besides the public comments that were submitted and you've had the opportunity to review, we didn't find anything. Planning Commission had asked if there was, for staff to continue to look to see if there was any additional information or anything that might be relevant to this rezone, and we did not find anything. We did not go through all of the public hearing records for the Sauk Mountain View Estates. That was a little beyond what we could manage, and not sure that, we've been through those files and we haven't found any requirements that the property be anything special. At some point somebody had said that there was a requirement that it go back to wetland if there was not any, if it wasn't a golf course anymore. We have not been able to find any record of that sort of thing. So with that, that's all we have. If we should probably note what time we're opening the public hearing here, and then let Mr. Ruby speak.
So as we move forward, we're going to open the public hearing here at 6:46 at night. Mr. Ruby. Mr. Ruby? Bill, is it a technical issue?
How about now? Can I be heard?
We have you. Thank you.
I'm technically and electronically challenged. Thank you for the opportunity to make a few comments. I've had a chance to review the staff report together with the lead agencies, not having found probable significant adverse impact. This request is part of a larger plan for residential development in that area, which includes what is now the 3-acre commercial piece. And as such, the application has gone in. I'm hoping and would urge the commission to approve this and send it on to the city council for the next meeting. The stormwater issue, which also includes the HOA from above, there has over time become more and more leakage from their stormwater drainage. The area, because it's at the bottom topographically of that area, will need stormwater abatement and remediation, but that can all be engineered by a civil for any purpose and made better actually than what it is now. And as far as the restrictions, even I had requested prior to buying the property, done extensive research on any kind of restriction on title or otherwise, and came up with the same conclusion that staff did. I've certainly never been able to find anything. With all of that said, unless and I don't know whether it's appropriate for questions to be directed at me, but thank you for your time. I would like to ask that the commission approve this and send it on to the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to make a comment? Bill, do you have a list of people that are actually linked in to the meeting right now?
Yes, I'm going and clicking on their names and allowing them to talk.
Okay.
So I see Terri Judd has a hand up.
Ms. Judd, you have the floor.
Okay, I have my husband here, Rick Judd, and he'll be doing the speaking.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Rick Judd. I live in the house of the gentleman that developed the golf course and built it. We've lived here for 30 years, and in 30 years, we have seen every kind of level of water on that property in that area over the years. Thank you, Pat. I sat for 8 years on one of your seats as chairman of the Planning Commission for 8 years. And Pat, that was a good point you brought up when we discussed with the developers of the Sauk Mountain Estates and the smaller lot size that they would use the golf course to mediate the difference for it. And now it should not be taken away. My biggest question is, why hasn't there been a wetland study done on that? We spent numerous hours on the park across the street, which is much drier, and that was found to be wetlands. And unfortunately, we needed a park worse than we need more housing. And there it sits. So why isn't the wetland study being done? And I'm sure what that outcome will be. So that's basically all I've got to say. We've got comments from Miss Susie Williams, who has been here for 40-something years and 3 times challenged the golf course to go away. So hopefully, and no offense against you, Bob, but it's not the proper place for housing. I would hope that you would just use your commercial and take advantage of that and consider that to be the best choice. Thank you.
Hey, can you guys just, for a point of order, recite your address?
Sure. It's 1310 North Fruitdale Road.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bill, you're in control.
all attendees have the ability to talk.
Has anybody else requested to be heard?
Yeah, JeffreyChoffel, can you hear me? Yes. Thank you for the meeting tonight. Appreciate having an opportunity to join in and chime in. I've bought this house see up
Sir, could you just recite your full name and your address, please?
Oh, yeah,
and then the testimony. Thank you.
No worries. JeffreyChoffel, 1265 Arizo Drive.
Thank you.
Okay, so we bought this house roughly 14 years ago, and the biggest reason why we bought this house was it was on a golf course, and you didn't have people behind you. You have the view, spectacular view, and you have the golf course. So my concern, other than the point that the last fellow brought up with the wetlands, which is a very good point, which I think there does need to be a study, is that the resale value of our homes up above are going to suffer tremendously. And then secondly, and this can probably be directed towards the builder, is how many homes are being planned, and eventually is a golf course. I've seen this before where you open a can of worms, and the next thing you know, it's all houses. Do we have an answer to that? As far as how many homes?
Staff can address some of the questions after we get through the public comment period. And so I'm not cutting anybody off. I've got a couple of questions here that I can answer.
Okay.
Oh, darn it, we missed part of his.
Yeah. Lost part of his talk.
Matt, all we can do right now is listen to what you have to say, and then when we're all done, then we can start taking these issues apart piece by piece. So that's just the way the process works. So is that your final? Are you done, or you have more to say?
I'm done. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Continue on.
Thank you, Bill. It's on to you again.
I don't know what he said. Darn it.
All of the attendees have the ability to speak. So is there anyone else that wanted to speak?
I don't know.
So Matt and Lisa, Howry, you start right now.
Okay.
Just introduce yourself.
I am Matt Howry, 1275 Arizo Drive. We are also concerned with the flooding issues. A huge portion of the golf course property is underwater most of the winter. And the only benefit of the rezoning is to allow houses across all of it. If there was a business placed in that one corner that is the driest corner of the land, that would be perfectly acceptable. That is what is there now. But the only benefit of a rezone is to put houses on all of it where it could not possibly be safe with the amount of water that flows through there. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, do we have anyone else?
I don't see any other hands raised.
I see Cheryl's on mute. That's the last one.
Oh, Cheryl. Terri Judd.
I can ask her to unmute, but the control is on that end.
Okay.
Maybe it's Cheryl Fletcher.
So Cheryl, if you'd like to speak, you could take yourself off mute, and here's your opportunity. Otherwise, we'll be moving on.
Cheryl. Why does it keep coming to me?
Cheryl, we can hear you. So your full name and address, please.
No, that was somebody else speaking.
Oh.
They're hearing us.
Are you guys hearing us?
We're hearing somebody.
We're hearing somebody.
Hi, John.
So how do I get?
Mute your microphone.
Okay, well, Cheryl doesn't seem to be unmuting herself, so
okay.
I guess we move on.
Okay, so we'll be closing the public hearing portion of the meeting at 6:57 p.m. Would everybody like to discuss some of the comments? And John, you took a couple notes on a couple things. Why don't you start, and then we can move around the board, so to speak, here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
okay.
the first issue that I heard that I figured I could address easily is the wetland issue. So there will be a wetland study at the time of development. Mm-hmm. And so we'll have the owner of the development will have to have a wetland study done, and then we'll review that wetland study and see if it is accurate based on the science of wetland studies. Then, so it's just not done at the rezone time because there's no land use change. Well, there's no development change. It's just a change on paper of what kind of use it can be. So it's really not relevant or necessary at the rezone time. We understand well the flooding issues in the area, and then that brings me to the other question is so the way the development of the property is going to go is right now the entire golf course, with the exception of this 3-acre area, is zoned as R7. Oh, I see Cheryl now has her hand up. So I would actually like to stop and give Cheryl the opportunity to speak because I understand the technology can be challenging in this, and it looks like she's got it figured out.
Okay.
So if we can reopen the public hearing to let Cheryl speak.
Due to technological reasons, we're going to reopen the public hearing at 6:59 p.m. So Bill, you're in control of our latest speaker. And can you please state your full name and address, please? Thank you.
This is Cheryl Fletcher. I live at 1263 Arizo Drive. I'm sorry that I was having technical difficulties, and thank you for still allowing me to speak. My major objection to developing the golf course, of course, is the wetland area. I still see heron there frequently. I think we really need to consider the fact that this is a wetland and should be preserved if possible. My other concern is about traffic issues. There's very few people that use the golf course right now, but if you put 50 to 100 houses in there, that kind of traffic coming out of that section is probably going to be more than we would like to see. I do see cars, even though the speed limit is 25 miles per hour through there. I see cars speeding through there frequently. And I think that should be also considered another issue.
Do you have any more comments, ma'am?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are now going to reclose the meeting at the public portion of the meeting at 7:01 p.m. And I think, John, you were going through a couple of things, talking about wetland studies and things like that. And just to add into it, you know, and for people who are listening in, anytime you do development, okay, outside of the rezone, there are requirements for critical area studies. Wetlands is just a component of the overall study before anything could even move forward on a project. So I still want to stay focused on what we're doing here and not get caught up in the weeds, because nothing's been proposed at this standpoint outside of a rezone. And to also, you know, people need to verse themselves in the code as well. Mixed commercial is an excellent zone, and you can still do a commercial component, I mean, a residential component on a mixed commercial project. So the issues are, and everybody's been very clear about it, it's the water issues. However, in the current zone that it's in, it's that the rezone's not going to resolve or solve really any of this stuff going forward. So John, it's back to you, and then we'll open it up to everyone else.
All right. So what I was starting to say when I saw Cheryl was available again, is that right now the property can be developed as mixed commercial, and the 3-acre parcel can be, part of the parcel can be developed as mixed commercial. There's no reason, they would still need to address flooding issues, whether it's commercial or residential. The rest of the golf course is also zoned residential, so it can be developed today. If we're to receive an application for a subdivision at the golf course today, we would be able to accept it on the rest of, on the residential part. And Mr. Ruby has submitted an application for a subdivision over the entire, well, maybe not the entire golf course, but over the mixed commercial area and the residential area. But we were unable to accept that application as complete because it doesn't meet zoning requirements. That's why it's requested to rezone the property. The creek buffers will have a 55-foot buffer on either side of it. That is per our code. If they do mitigation, meaning planting along the creek to improve the habitat along the creek. Otherwise, they would need to keep a 110-foot buffer on either side of the creek. But you can get that down to 55 by improving the habitat and water quality, but with plantings primarily. And that has to be shown by a wetland scientist to show that it's a benefit. So there's 2 creeks through there. So that's where we would see open space along those creeks as part of any development. And it would be part of the subdivision process that we would review the flooding, the direct impacts, by changing the land use to see how that would affect flooding, and also do the wetland studies. So there's a very good chance that the rest of the golf course will develop, even if the 3-acre area remains mixed commercial, and then there wouldn't be houses there, but there's a very good chance that the property owner would still request a subdivision just over the rest of the area, not including the 3 acres. And our code allows that as long as they meet the critical areas and stormwater requirements. And there will be more public comment for those developments also. So if a subdivision application is submitted, there will also be public hearing and public notification of the applications. So that's kind of the process of, right now we're just talking about rezoning the 3 acres in the corner. I thought since we've got a lot of people here listening, which is really great, we're happy that people are here and commenting. It's a good opportunity for us to explain what the process would be like.
One quick question.
That's all I have.
Is an Army Corps of Engineers permit required if we're going to modify the creeks or anything to the banks or anything?
Well, that would depend. If
it's not navigable,
if there's wetlands that need to be filled, that are requested to be filled, then Army Corps of Engineers may get involved. They're changing their rules right now. So definitely the State Department of Ecology will be involved, and possibly the Army Corps of Engineers. Typically the Army Corps of Engineers would be, but they've made administrative changes to not regulate wetlands the way that they used to. They made recent changes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, yes. So it's open, Pat?
Hi, John, if his application moves ahead, or even if the rezone doesn't happen and he submits again, does that come before us or does that go to the hearing examiner?
So the Planning Commission does not make any decisions or recommendations on projects anymore. Project-related things such as subdivisions, variances, conditional use permits go to the hearing examiner, and the hearing examiner holds a public hearing, just as if it were the same way the Planning Commission does, but it's a third party that is not a member of the Planning Commission. It's intended to be, the hearing examiner is intended to be a less biased. It's tough to make decisions on your neighbor's properties as a Planning Commission member. So that's why the hearing examiner process is a professional. They usually have a legal background.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, John.
Danielle, Silas. I see Stacy's no longer here, or go ahead, Silas.
So I am sympathetic to the comments that we've heard, but I am inclined to approve this rezone request based on sort of some of the stuff that John said, and the fact that the issue before the Planning Commission is not whether things should be built on this property. That's currently allowed under the current zoning and any future zoning that will happen here. But just as far as practicality, and we are in a housing crisis still in this county and region wide, and we need more homes, and not building new homes is not the answer to that. And so I think all of these issues with the wetlands and the buildability of the lot are perfectly valid to be raised when the subdivision application comes in and is before the hearing examiner. But I think that's outside of our scope here. And for that reason, I would make a motion that we approve this rezone and allow it to move forward to the city council.
Does anybody have any additional comments? Danielle? Pat? Stacy?
Yeah.
Pat?
I'm going to be voting no for the main reason right now on that lot is that because it's a commercial use now, if we change the zoning, then the golf course becomes a non-conforming use of the property and they can't do anything to it to improve it. And therefore it's going to go residential probably eventually because they can't function at all. And so anyway, I think it's the highest and best use for that chunk of property as it is. So I'm definitely voting against the rezone on this. And yeah, that's my point of view. Thank you.
So a motion was made to approve the rezone. Stacy, do you have anything to add? Danielle? Okay, just to back up a bit on the mixed commercial zone, and I tend to repeat myself. The mixed commercial zone, if that was actually taken to the max of what that zone allows, it would be no different, really, in my opinion, from an overall usage standpoint. So if it was taken, and in the mixed commercial zone, you can go 60 feet high if you double the setbacks. So I don't see it myself as really any really difference going residential to mixed commercial, because the mixed commercial actually allows you to do more things. And I was actually surprised that we saw a rezone request for something like that, because I think you get more bang for the buck on the mixed commercial, but that's just my general opinion. So we have a motion to approve. Let's take a vote. The motion is to approve the rezone requests. I have a no from Commissioner Huggins.
You need
no,
a second.
we need a second. Yeah, we need a second.
I'm sorry. Will somebody second? Danielle, can you put your speaker on?
I'll second the motion to approve.
Okay, Commissioner Freiberg seconded the motion. All in favor? We have 2 in favor. All opposed?
I'm opposed.
No.
We have 2 opposed. So we have a tie. And John, I believe that vote goes to me. Is that correct?
For procedurally, you get the chair of the planning commission gets stacked like a regular planning commission member. It's not like the city council.
Okay. My decision is to approve, and here's why. I believe anything new going in there is going to refocus on the water issue. And I believe going forward, it could probably improve the issues that are going on now, because nothing is going to get approved regardless of what goes there, whether it's mixed commercial or if it's residential. If anything, it allows us to revisit before anything goes in to take a look at the problems that have occurred in the past. So the motion is 2-2 and my vote 3. The motion is passed to approve the rezone. Okay, on to unfinished business. John, would you like to take off on this?
Yeah, just closing comments. Thank everybody for their participation, for their patience, for their interest, and just, we took it through a pretty robust process to get to this point. So next is the downtown parking requirements issue. Catherine, do you want to talk about what has changed since the last time? And
sure. So last time we kind of came at you with a pretty complicated code, and you requested that we sort of simplify and keep parts that were good, so we did that. So this time we kept the 3-tier approach. We broke it down instead to 2 different charts, one for inside the blue boundary and one for outside, to sort of make it less complicated. So having gone through there, you can hopefully see that there's quite a difference for regulations for parking in the blue boundary defined in 1736 versus outside. And we've addressed the issues that were raised in the last staff report with the disproportionate impact on smaller lots and absorbing the parking problems on larger lots, medium to larger lots.
Do you want to discuss the limits? We did 4,000 for.
Oh yeah. Another request last meeting was that we, instead of saying per lot, we kind of set limits per unit. So we went for tier 1, it's up to 10 residential units associated with a commercial use. And for tier 2, it's from 10 to 30, and tier 3 is 30 and beyond for units associated with a commercial use, and those parking requirements. And the retail was a little trickier. There's no way to reduce commercial parking because that would be way too complicated. So we just kind of went with square footage. And so, the first 4,000 square feet is like you're exempt. So let me see how that reads. Well, it looks like our most recent draft maybe didn't get sent. So I think I made some edits before we sent it off. So I can just kind of discuss new buildings that contain commercial space of up to 4,000 square feet are exempt.
The edits are there. It's the one posted on the Planning Commission page is Tier 1 is 4,000 square feet of retail commercial space and up to 10 residential units. So there'd be no parking requirement for up to that level. And the idea is that what we did is we looked at one lot in particular in the downtown area that right on Metcalf, and it's about 4,000 square feet.
Oh, I see.
As we were looking at that lot, we thought, you know, if there's any parking requirement for that lot, it's just almost undevelopable because say you have 1 or 2 parking spaces required. Now that takes off the back 20 to 25 feet of the building, and the lot's really not that big to begin with. The downtown area, none of the buildings down there have any parking area in them. And it didn't seem reasonable for us to require underground parking or structure parking of some sort within the building that's being developed on such a small lot. So that's how we chose 4,000. That's a kind of a typical lot size on Metcalf Street in the downtown area. And the discussion in the past has been not that the Planning Commission or the City Council is terribly concerned if a few buildings, small to medium-sized buildings are built and create a parking need. The concern is if there's a big development, something along the size, of the downtown 48. If something like that was built without parking, the council was concerned that there would be a downtown parking problem. Fortunately, in that project, they provided parking, and you know, whether or not they provided enough for every single person that lives and shops there, you know, it's probably not necessary. You know, we want to encourage some sort of walking downtown and restrict people from, you know, put enough parking crimp on it that people don't have 2 extra cars and just superfluous. But we are trying to accommodate the need for parking, and we recognize that people are going to park. But the smaller buildings the idea was that they could, that the city could accommodate those amount. But we want to make sure that the big projects don't create a huge parking problem.
So Silas, the modifications here addressed, I'm just looking at the meeting minutes that you were talking about, building size. So what Catherine and John did here, does that satisfy what you were discussing?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
I think that I did have a question though. On page 5, it looks like of this memo prepared by Catherine. Under Tier 1, it says no building more than 4,000 square feet of commercial or residential space. Says residential units associated, no off-street parking required. Commercial uses, standard off-street parking per chapter 1736. And so I thought we were saying there was no parking required at all for 4,000 square feet or less of retail or commercial space, but so I'm just confused about that. I don't necessarily have an opinion about what the right answer is. I don't know what chapter 1736 says. Maybe it's in here and I just
just really quick, we kind of addressed that in 1736. So if you move to page 7, in the first sentence, new retail businesses and restaurants and the first 4,000 square feet of all other commercial located in an existing building within the area bounded on the north and west by railroad rights of way. So the chart on page 5 is for areas outside of that boundary. And so that's more or less what the code is right now. So if they're building outside the boundary, they still have to provide parking for the commercial use, but no parking for the residential use associated with that.
Okay.
That's primarily the difference between the two charts, the one on page 5 and the one on page 6. The one on page 5 is for outside the blue line, and the chart on page 6 is for within the blue line.
Inside the blue line.
And
okay.
The blue line is important.
Yes.
For this discussion.
So we thought we might include that a definition of the blue boundary. We're calling it blue, but in the code it doesn't, show up as blue. But in chapter 1724 for the Central Business District, just to have that included in there for a quicker reference instead of sending off to a different chapter for description of the boundary. So that was something to consider.
We attempted to make it more readable by just writing the description of the blue line in this chapter, as well as the standard on-street parking requirements in chapter 1736. Instead of cross-referencing back and forth to each other, tried to make it easier on ourselves, frankly, and the users.
So in 1736-020 on page 7, section B, this is what we're talking about, and I don't see that it says that it would make it hard for them impractical for them to include parking, but I don't see anything that says that they don't have to have parking. Is that, but then it sends it back to this other one. So does that, residential retail, no off-street park, I see. So that sends it back there, and that's where on page 6, this chart is where it says no off-street parking required. Okay, I think I got it.
It's a little confusing, yeah.
And we don't need to make any decisions today. If you want to, we're here to explain it. And then if you want to go back at it, have another look at it over the next month. And with now that it's been explained a little bit, and we totally understand this is complex. We're trying to make it simple. We've done a lot of work to make it more readable. We'll add things and then be like, oh, that didn't make any sense. So it doesn't look like we added a lot, but we actually spent a lot of time and a lot of thought on it. But we're only human, and the more time we spend in it, sometimes you lose focus on what you're trying to say. So if it's not readable, we would really like to know that, and we'd like to make it readable.
So looking at your recommendation, that's exactly what we're saying right now. Let's just keep this open and keep talking about it until we're ready to make a final decision down the line.
And this is a legislative issue, so you can send us your comments, separately. That we'll make them part of the record, but you're allowed to do that. It's not like a project where you can only all meet at one time and have no ex parte communication. This is legislative, so you can go out and talk to the community. You can submit your own comments separately, which actually might be helpful for staff, for us to, if you have some, comments about, whether it's readable, maybe it's not saying, maybe it doesn't say what we're explaining to you, and we really need to know that, because we don't want our code to say something that we don't intend it to. So we're open to comments and criticisms.
Yeah. So at this point, we're not making any motions on anything. Anybody have anything else to add in here? Danielle?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that I definitely think it's clearer and more readable, and I would like to see if we can even make it even more that way, but you know, it does tend to reference back and forth between 1724 and 1736, and there is no way to completely, you know, obviously they are that way for a reason, but I think it really helped, you know, putting some of that explanation in each one so you didn't have to go back and forth quite so much. So yeah,
yeah.
Anyone else? Pat, Stacy?
I'm good at the moment. I understand the concept fully.
Okay.
The numbers take me longer, and I tend to defer to people who are better at numbers than me. But we're definitely headed in the right direction, and I'm very happy with what you've done so far. Another month would be really good to digest it, and I also feel that, you know, even with all of our brain power together, when we put out something new, it's almost always a beta test, and as we found out with PRDs back in 2004 or whatever it was, and sometimes you have to pull the plug on it. But I think this is not going to be like that. But anyway, just reminding everybody that any code is a bit of a beta test. So anyway, great job so far.
So John, at this point, I don't have to make we could just say, okay, we'll talk about it at the next meeting. Would you like me to read your recommendation into the record? Or is this fine?
No, I mean, it's just a work in progress.
Okay.
I can't tell if Stacy Peno's trying to speak with her.
Oh, I'm sorry, Stacy. I didn't
muted.
Go.
If you have input, we'd love it. You're muted though, so we can't hear you.
I'm not muted now.
There you go.
Okay. So I missed the last meeting and I'm a little behind on some of this reading here. All I have to say is I'm concerned with the downtown core itself. We already have a major parking issue down there, and we have had for a few years. There isn't enough places for anyone to park down there as it is now, so adding things is worrying me. I'm going to read more into this. I understand we've got to do something to fix the parking. It's just I'm concerned with adding more with the trouble that we already have down there, and then like the issue that's been brought up at council before, the giant pickup trucks that are either out in the road or on top of the sidewalks and just all of that stuff. So I'm hoping that this is something that'll help fix that. But to me right now, it doesn't sound like it's helping our downtown core any. But
well, right now there's no parking requirement in the downtown. So we're adding some sort of parking requirement, and we're trying to balance, you know, if a new building is built, we want to make sure that somebody's actually able to do that and add to our downtown and help revitalize, because you know, new buildings in the downtown really help. But but we understand that if it's a larger development, we don't want the traffic to get too bad, the parking to get too bad. It's not much we can do about the existing size of the parking spaces and the right of way width on Metcalf. But, you know, one of the other things that this allows for is for paying, if a downtown parking district is created, which could, you know, solve some of the regional issues, allow the city to buy or build a parking lot someplace nearby so there'd be overflow. I mean, with any downtown, everybody's not going to be able to park on Main Street. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But we're trying to accommodate parking in other places and accommodate new development to revitalize the downtown, because without investment in the downtown, pretty sure that it's not going to grow the way that the downtown community would like to grow.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just worried about if we're putting residential above downtown businesses down there, and where are these people going to park? You know, I read something a while back on this that said possibly parking them in one of the city lots, but I don't know a resident who's going to walk 2 blocks to their car. So I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to fit all
they will, because if there starts to be an overnight parking problem, council will jump right on that and say, you know, you can't park on Metcalf Street and leave your car there all day.
Okay.
I mean,
well, that was my concerns.
And that makes sense. Pat, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Catherine. I was just going to say that, you know, some of the things that we studied in architecture when I was doing architecture was that, you know, to Stacey, your question, that a little bit of what we called, you know, hustle and bustle is necessary. The example I like to use is University Village, which at one point had pretty good shops, but it was just this blob of buildings like an old mall, and it was surrounded by, you know, I don't know how many, maybe 800 parking spaces, but none of them were used. But once they started to break it up and start to improve the site, and there got to be some hustle and bustle, then people come in, they want to be part of that feeling. The trick is knowing when you have enough hustle and bustle and when you're making people say, nah, too much trouble, I'm not parking and going in. So I think that's part of the equation that we're working on here. Is we want the businesses to develop, but we also want a sense of bustle in the town, but we don't want to go so far that people are turned off by that. And I think this is headed that direction. Anyway, I'm still happy to have another month and keep looking at it.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Jeff.
If it's too complicated, we could also just drop it down to like 2 tiers instead of 3 tiers. And if you want to think about that over the next month, if you're concerned about it being, you know, too complex, we could just say, you know, make it 2, because those medium ones, we could put that bar wherever you want it. Just something to think about. You don't have to do that.
Catherine, this is just a silly thing on your project description. Description is spelled wrong. I think it needs an E.
Oh.
Because if you carry it over to the next one, it's just going to keep coming across.
Whoopsies. I also noticed, and this is why I was struggling earlier, is that the new portion under 17-36020 wasn't underlined for the first 4,000 square feet. So
I already made a note of that.
Yeah, me too.
Does anyone have any additional comments before we move forward? Okay, so we'll pick this up at the next meeting, and on to new business, which there is none on the agenda. And I guess we're at the point of Planning Commission discussion, information items. Anyone have anything to say for the good of the general order here? Go ahead, Silas.
I just have a clarification question for John. I think there was an email or something that went out saying our work session with the city council in October is at 4 p.m. Is that correct? They've always been later, and so I just wanted to make sure that was actually the right time.
Yep, that's correct. The city council moved all of their meetings to 4 p.m. They're not they didn't. You know, the Planning Commission didn't change their time from 6:30, but the City Council made it during the workday.
Hey, Bill, here's a question.
Which is good and bad. It's hard for some of the council members to get there, and it's hard for, you know, a lot of the public to get there when they're working. But that's what they did.
So repeat that, please. The October 7th meeting. Joint meeting is at 4 o'clock?
Correct. And you should have received an email about that.
Okay.
And I believe Bill was sending out an invite for the Zoom invite, because it'll be a different link than this link.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Bill, when you embed that tap to download in your emails, where does it go? Where does that actual downloaded document go so we can view it and see it?
I'm sorry, Joe, what was the question again?
So in the last email you sent, I want to say it was just a couple of days ago, it has a document that says tap to download. Where does it actually go?
That to download is to download the Zoom app. The link that's in there is to the actual online meeting. So you you click on that just like you would any other Zoom meeting.
Okay.
To join.
Because it didn't do anything when I tapped on. I thought it was taking the document and bringing that down in place.
You were trying to join a meeting that hadn't started yet.
Okay, so that's all that meant. Okay,
yep.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything else to add? Stacy, Pat, Danielle? Okay, at this moment, let's adjourn the meeting at 7:37 p.m. Thank you everyone for coming up and actually dealing with some sticky kind of issues here tonight. So thanks again, and we'll see everybody early next month.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good day. Thanks.